This is a story about the penguins. The penguins and the big penguin party, to be precise. The penguins live all over fluffy gardens, a wonderful place to live. Our story begins with a holiday. Now, holidays aren't unusual in fluffy gardens. Mrs. Toasty the sheep often went to visit her Aunt Snug. Paolo the cat loved going to the beach. And George the mean yellow dog, whilst he hated holidays, hated not having a holiday even more. What was unusual this time was that everyone went on holiday at the same time. Well, not quite everyone. You see, the penguins in fluffy gardens rarely take holidays. After all, they're always so busy and their work is terribly important. They deliver the post, and the milk, and the newspapers, run the shops, drive the buses and the taxis, even empty the bins. They are very busy penguins indeed. So you can imagine their surprise when they found the town was empty. The little penguin grocer was running late that morning. But when he got to his shop, all was quiet. The penguin bus driver drove his bus around town, looking for passengers. But all was quiet. Only the little penguin train driver had been busy. He had taken everyone out of town to their holidays. But now, all was quiet. The penguins slowly realized. Everyone's gone, they said. They closed the shops, parked their buses and their taxis, dumped their bags of letters, and gathered together at the town hall, which, until they arrived, had been empty. Now, it was rather full. The little penguin postman stood in front of all the other penguins. "It seems," he said, "that we have the place to ourselves." Everyone cheered. "That means," he went on, "we don't have to do any of our jobs." Everyone cheered even louder. "And," he continued, "we could have a very big party." The penguins cheered so loudly that somewhere very far away on a beach, Paolo the cat wondered what all the noise was. And so, the penguins had a party. They played games, had lots to eat and drink, watched films, listened to their favourite music very loudly, and generally did just about anything they felt like doing. They had a wonderful time. And with no work to do, the penguins just spent the next few days finally getting to know each other. For example, the little penguin mechanic found out that he had the same pair of slippers as the penguin grocer. The penguin baker was able to share his love for ballet with the penguin chef. And they all found out together that penguins love to sing. We are the fluffy penguins, we're having so much fun. We work all day, we work all year, but now our work is done. We are the fluffy penguins, it's time to sing and cheer. We love that there is no one now but fluffy penguins here. Oi! Actually, said a little penguin, I kind of miss them. That flamingo had a lovely pair of shoes. Me too, said the penguin taxi driver. I used to take that chicken all round town. He was a good laugh. And that pig used to make a lovely fish sandwich, said the penguin paperboy. And it didn't end there. They missed Wee Reg the puppy and his wagging tail, Lola the mosquito and her very silly hats, even George the mean yellow dog, though they couldn't think of a good reason why. The penguins missed everyone. And so they got together once more and made a plan. A week later, Paolo the cat got off the train and carried his heavy suitcase through town. He had had a lovely holiday. But the penguins were gone. "They've gone," he said. Tootie the elephant, who had been away skiing, looked around. Paolo was right. They had gone. Word spread very fast. Nobody knew what to do. "We'd better have a meeting about it at the town hall," said Paolo. So everyone set off to the town hall. Paolo opened the door. It was very dark inside. "That's odd," said Paolo. But before he could say anything else, the lights came on. "Surprise!" shouted the penguins. "Welcome home!" It was a big party for everyone in Fluffy Gardens. There were cakes, balloons, and lots of party games. It was the most fun anyone had had all year. "We missed you," said the penguin postman. "We missed you too," said Paolo, and gave him a big hug. "You know," he said, "the best thing about going away is coming home." This is a story about George the mean yellow dog. George the mean yellow dog and the grumpy morning, to be precise. George lives in Fluffy Gardens, a wonderful place to live. Our story begins one morning in Gruff Lane. George, the mean yellow dog, had got up on the wrong side of the bed, as usual. "I hate morning time!" shouted George to nobody in particular. And then he stomped downstairs. If anything could cheer George up, it would be a nice breakfast, while reading his favourite magazine, Moan Monthly. But when he sat down and flicked open the magazine, George realised something. "I've read this one!" he shouted. George had nothing to read. "I hate morning time," said George. "I hate everything." George ran outside to find someone to shout at. Just then, Camille the crocodile ran by in a panic. She was on her way to the bus stop to catch a bus into town. She was very late. George was just about to shout at her when Camille tripped and splat! She fell right over. Ouch! Poor Camille. Well, George just didn't feel quite right about shouting at Camille. Not when she looked so upset. So instead, he picked her up and made sure she was okay. "Oh, thank you," said Camille. "That was so kind of you to help." As George went back to looking for someone to shout at, Camille gave him a big wave and continued on her way. And because George had helped her, Camille didn't miss the bus. She got on and sat down happily. Babs the baby bird hopped on at the next stop. But the bus was full and Babs had nowhere to sit. Being so small, she just rolled around the floor. Camille the crocodile thought of George and how he had done something nice. So she decided to do something nice too. Camille picked Babs up and held her carefully. "Thank you," cheeped Babs. Babs chirped and cheeped for the rest of the journey. And all the while, George the mean yellow dog was looking for someone to shout at. The bus dropped Camille off in town, drove around the hills and out towards Tweet Cottage. Babs hopped off the bus just outside her house. There, she saw Sebastian the kangaroo in an awful fluster. It was starting to rain, and Sebastian couldn't find an umbrella in his red bag. Babs the baby bird thought of Camille and how she had done something nice. So she decided to do something nice too. She went inside and then came out with a raincoat. It was far too big for Babs, but fit Sebastian perfectly. "Oh, thank you," said Sebastian. Sebastian, lovely and dry, bounced away happily. And all the while, George the mean yellow dog was still looking for someone to shout at. That morning, Sebastian helped Cornelius the crab by giving him a new bucket and spade. Cornelius helped Paolo the cat by pruning his rose bushes. I just love to prune things. And Paolo helped Scoopy the pink rabbit by giving her some magazines so she could cut them up and make pictures. And as Scoopy was on her way home, she passed George the mean yellow dog, who was still looking for someone to shout at. He ran up to Scoopy and roared, "I hate everything!"
"Oh, really?"
said Scoopy with a big smile.
"Why is that?"
George explained quietly, "Because I haven't got anything to read." Scoopy thought for a moment. And because George had been nice to Camille, who had been nice to Babs, who had been nice to Sebastian, who had been nice to Cornelius, who had been nice to Paolo, who had been nice to Scoopy, Scoopy decided to be nice too. She reached into her bag of magazines and pulled out the latest copy of Moan Monthly.
"Here you go,"
she said. George didn't know what to say. He couldn't believe that Scoopy was being so nice to him. George smiled a shy smile, looked around to make sure nobody was looking, and then gave her a big hug. He toddled back inside and had a lovely breakfast, reading Moan Monthly. After breakfast, George walked around Fluffy Gardens with a little smile. And with everyone helping everyone else, George's little smile soon became a very big smile. That evening, George realized something he wanted to share with everyone. So, once again, he was out looking for someone to shout at. But it was late. Everyone was on their way to bed. So he just tucked himself up and whispered it to himself instead. "I like everything." He went to sleep and smiled the whole night long until he got up. On the wrong side of the bed. This is a story about Lola the Mosquito. Lola the Mosquito and the Snowy Day, to be precise. Lola lives in Fluffy Gardens, a wonderful place to live. Our story begins one very cold evening. On her way home, Lola the Mosquito passed Hesitant Hangout where she saw Monty the goat. He was talking to himself. "I'll paint a picture," he said. "No, I'll tidy my house. I'll arrange all my hats in alphabetical order." "No." Just then, he noticed Lola. "Oh, hello, Lola," he said. "Cold evening." "Warm toast," said Lola, who is a very silly mosquito. Monty had been trying to decide what he would do the next day. "Have you any plans?" he asked. Lola hadn't made any plans. "Well, don't leave it too late," advised Monty. "If you don't plan something, you may find you have nothing to do." And as Lola continued on her way, Monty the goat finally came to a decision. "I'll play golf with Mr. Johnson the panda." As Lola passed Waterfall Drive, where the water had completely frozen over, Terence the toad was also making plans. "Tomorrow," he said to Lola, "I'm going to play hide-and-seek with Polly the pelican." Terence, being green, was very good at hiding himself in bushes. And at Raspberry Ripple Road, Scoopy the pink rabbit was hopping up and down with excitement. "Tomorrow I'm going to the playground," she shouted to Lola. "I'm going on the slide." But Lola had no plans at all for the next day. She arrived at Pot Pie House and enjoyed a very silly supper of a custard and mustard sandwich, a bowl of orange peel, and a nice mug of fish. When she finished, she put her dirty dishes into a pair of wellies, watched some television upside down, and then went to bed. During the night, while everyone was asleep, it snowed. By morning, Fluffy Gardens was covered in snow. And that day, Monty the goat met Mr. Johnson the panda at the golf club. But the golf ball, being white, got completely lost in the snow. By the time Monty found the ball, he was far too cold to play golf. Terence the toad met Polly the pelican to play hide-and-seek. But the bushes were covered in snow and were totally white. Terence, being green, was found first every time. And at the playground, Scoopy the pink rabbit made it halfway down the slide before getting stuck in the snow. "Hello," she said. "Can somebody help me down?" The snow had taken them all by surprise. Later that day, Monty, Terence, and Scoopy sat on a bench trying to keep themselves warm. They looked very glum. "My day is ruined," they all said together. And that's when Lola the mosquito turned up, wrapped up warm, walking backwards and juggling snowballs, smiling the biggest smile that anyone had seen that day. And then she stopped and looked. Monty wasn't smiling. Terence and Scoopy weren't smiling either. "What's wrong?" she asked. One by one, they explained how they had made plans, and now, with the snow, their day was ruined. Lola smiled. "Follow me," she said. "Where are we going?" asked Scoopy. "I have no idea," said Lola, and off she went. They followed Lola, all walking backwards to make sure they were going in the right direction, until she stopped in a big field. "Let's draw shapes in the snow," said Lola. They all found sticks and set to work. Monty drew a square. Terence drew a circle. Scoopy drew a triangle. And Lola drew a spider with a mustache and a top hat. They had a lot of fun. "What will we do now?" asked Terence the toad. "I have no idea," said Lola. And off they went. That day, they built snowmen, went sledging, and made snow angels. By the end of the day, everyone was smiling. "What a very unexpected day," said Monty the goat. "I had so much fun." Terence and Scoopy agreed. "Our day wasn't ruined after all," said Scoopy to Lola. "How did you know we could do so many fun things?" "She didn't," said Monty. "And so, every day is a surprise." "We were all too stuck to our plans," said Terence. "Thank you, Lola," they all said. That evening, Monty, Terence, and Scoopy made a plan for the next day. A plan they had no intention of changing. "We'll look forward to all the surprises tomorrow will bring," they said together, "and take each moment as it comes." And Lola, well, she just went home and watched the weather forecast. This is a story about Poppy the tiger. Poppy the tiger and the new camera, to be precise. Poppy lives in fluffy gardens. A wonderful place to live. Our story begins on Stripe Street early one morning. Poppy the tiger was brushing her rather large teeth when she heard a knock at the door. She toddled downstairs with a mouthful of toothpaste and opened the door. It was the little penguin postman with a package for Poppy. "Here you go." "Thank you," said Poppy, covering the penguin in toothpaste. "You're very welcome," said the penguin, who rather liked being minty fresh. Inside, Poppy the tiger opened up the package. It was a present from Tooty the elephant. A camera for taking pictures. It came with a note that read, "Do treat this carefully. Signed, your good friend, Tooty." Poppy was very excited. She picked up the camera and looked through it. Poppy started taking pictures immediately. A picture of the table. Snap. A picture of her feet. Snap. A picture of a picture. Snap. Pictures of anything and everything. Snap. 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 Poppy jumped up and down happily. She ran outside to see if there was anyone around she could take pictures of. She took a picture of Mr. Johnson the panda posing by his flowers. Snap. A picture of Monty the goat deciding what to have for lunch. Snap. A picture of tiny Babs the baby bird standing beside the very large Pertry the bear. Snap. And as she was about to take a picture of Lola the mosquito juggling pies with a variety of fillings, Poppy stopped and watched. Juggling looked like so much fun. Much more fun than taking pictures. Poppy wanted to try it right away. She threw down the camera and ran to Lola. "Can I have a go?" asked Poppy.
Raspberry Ripple,
said Lola, and gave Poppy her pies. Poppy threw them up one by one. The first pie landed on her head. It was cherry pie and was quite delicious. The second pie landed on Lola the mosquito. It was blueberry pie and was also quite delicious. The third pie landed on George the mean yellow dog, who happened to be passing by. It was cabbage and socks pie, was a little silly and not one bit delicious. "I hate cabbage and socks pie," shouted George, and then he stormed off. It turned out that juggling wasn't as much fun as Poppy had hoped. And now that the pies were completely ruined, Poppy decided to take more pictures. She ran to her camera and picked it up. Or at least, some of it. Poppy's camera was in several pieces. When she threw it, it had broken. "Oh no," said Poppy, very upset. She picked up the pieces and tried to put the camera back together. The pieces didn't seem to fit, so she squeezed harder. And out popped another piece. Pop! She was making things worse. Poppy was going to need help to fix her camera. She took all the pieces to a little house on Fishden Street. There lives a very clever cat. Paolo the cat, to be precise. Paolo had a look at all the pieces. He did have a very good book on cameras, but Paolo wasn't good at putting things together. "I have such little paws," he said. but I know someone who can help. Paolo and Poppy went to see Stinky the skunk. Stinky is very good at making things. And if he can make things, said Paolo, he can fix things. Together, Paolo the cat and Stinky the skunk worked on Poppy's camera. Paolo followed the diagrams in his book, and Stinky put each piece in the right place. They used a lot of sticky tape. When they were finished, Stinky held it up high. "We have fixed your camera," he said happily, and handed it to Poppy. Poppy was overjoyed. "But," said Stinky in a way that sounded quite important, "you must treat it very carefully." If Poppy didn't treat the camera well, it could break again, and might even break so badly that it couldn't ever be fixed again. "I promise I'll look after it from now on," said Poppy. And she meant it. She took a picture of Stinky the skunk and Paolo the cat, her special friends who had fixed her camera. Snap! And she hung it on her wall to remind herself to treat things carefully in future. After all, she wouldn't want to end up like poor Lola the mosquito. Her pies were in a dreadful state. All the sticky tape in the world wouldn't get them back together. This is a story about Scoopy the pink rabbit. Scoopy the pink rabbit and the big band, to be precise. Scoopy lives in fluffy gardens. A wonderful place to live. Our story begins with a tune. Scoopy the pink rabbit was walking through fluffy gardens early one morning, whistling to herself. Now, whistling isn't all that easy. There are many people who can't whistle at all. But Scoopy the pink rabbit could, and the tune she whistled was quite lovely. A little way down the path, Scoopy heard something. It was music. "Where is that music coming from?" asked Scoopy. It was faint at first, but the closer she got, the louder it sounded. Closer, louder. Closer, louder. Scoopy the pink rabbit soon found herself outside Flappy Heights, which is where Floella the fruit bat lives. And she was outside playing her little trumpet before bedtime. Scoopy saw Floella's trumpet and got very excited. "Can I play?" she asked. "Of course you can," said Floella with a smile. Floella gave Scoopy the trumpet and Scoopy blew into it. It didn't sound very good. Scoopy didn't seem to realize that. "I love playing the trumpet," she said. Scoopy gave Floella back her trumpet and continued her walk, whistling once more. Before long, Scoopy heard something else. More music. She followed the sound and soon saw Rex the pig playing his little accordion.
"Oh, can I play?"
asked Scoopy.
Of course you can,
said Rex with a laugh.
ha ha!
Rex gave Scoopy his accordion and Scoopy squeezed it. It didn't sound very good at all.
"I love playing the accordion,"
said Scoopy. And then she had an idea. "Floella plays the trumpet," she said, "and I love to play that too. Can we all play together sometime?" Rex thought that sounded
Delightful!
And that's how the idea of everyone playing music together spread around Fluffy Gardens. Scoopy sang with Una the owl. She played the kazoo with Lola the mosquito. She even clacked castanets with Cornelius the crab. And while Scoopy wasn't particularly good at any of those things, everyone loved the idea of getting together to play music. So Scoopy arranged it. Late one evening, Scoopy brought everyone together. Floella played her trumpet. Rex joined in on his accordion. Una the owl began to sing. Lola played her silly kazoo. And Cornelius the crab kept the rhythm with his castanets. It sounded lovely. Until Scoopy the pink rabbit joined in. She took Floella's trumpet and blew. It didn't sound right at all. Even Scoopy realized how bad it sounded. So she tried the accordion instead. That was just as bad, if not worse. As Scoopy tried singing, then the kazoo, and then the castanets, she began to feel a little sad.
I'm not good at anything,
she said.
That's not true, said Floella. Everyone's good at something.
But Scoopy knew the music only sounded good when she didn't join in. And she so wanted to join in. She gave Cornelius back his castanets and sat down.
I wish I was good at something,
she said, feeling very sorry for herself. But the music did sound lovely. It was nice just to listen. And as she listened, Scoopy couldn't help but feel a little happier. She began to whistle quietly to herself, along with the tune. Then she whistled louder. Before she knew what she was doing, she was standing up, swaying from side to side, bouncing up and down, and whistling happily. And it sounded wonderful. With Scoopy whistling right up front, the friends played together late into the night. Everyone gathered around to listen to the beautiful music. What a lovely night. The next morning, everyone thanked Scoopy the pink rabbit.
I'm so glad I could whistle, she said. It turned out I was good at something after all.
Oh, you were good at something else too,
said Rex the pig with a smile.
Putting together a very special night that we'll never forget.
And Scoopy was so happy, she started whistling.